What if acceptance was this bottle of water, right? What if your acceptance was this? And you're looking everywhere for acceptance and approval from other people. Okay. So that means that we don't have our own, we need to get acceptance from others. And isn't it interesting, if you've ever looked to try to get acceptance from others, it seems to not work. Whether we've looked to try to get acceptance and approval from our parents or a significant other, it seems like we keep falling up short and we keep being thirsty and parched. And so today I want to discuss acceptance and approval and why we have a tendency of looking in all the wrong places when we need to be looking in one specific place. Hey there, friends. Glad to be back today. And I like to use the water bottle analogy to represent acceptance and approval because I think it makes a lot of sense. Because when we're in relationships, and it begins when we're kids, right? When we're in the relationship with our parents, I think most of us, I can't say every single one of us, but most of us look for approval and acceptance from our mom and dad, right? We jump through hoops. We try to do everything we can to get that acceptance and approval. And some of us get it, which is great. And some of us don't. And I think more of us probably don't get it. We do whatever we can. We try to win whatever accolade. We try to do whatever we can, jumping through any hoop possible to try to get that approval and acceptance, but we come up short. What happens then to that person that comes up short? What happens to that child? Well, over time, we begin to cultivate other relationships, right? And eventually we begin to get into romantic relationships. And what we're looking for in those relationships is acceptance and approval. Okay, we want the other person to accept us. We want the other person to approve of us. And it's interesting because we're looking for that from other people. We're looking for that acceptance and approval, and we're giving them so much power, if you think about, over us, right? Because if they actually approve us or accept us, then we're valuable, okay? Then we're good enough. But it's interesting, what I found throughout many years is that when we look for acceptance and approval from other people, not only are we giving our power away, we're looking usually in sources that cannot give us acceptance and approval. Okay, and why is that? Okay, the reason why those people cannot give us acceptance and approval, even including our parents, is because of one big thing. It's because they don't approve or accept themselves. They weren't taught how to accept or approve themselves, and probably their parents never approved or accepted them. And they keep falling up short, just like us. And it's interesting because when we look for that approval from other people, not only are we giving them that power, but we're taking away our power, okay? Because what I found is that we are the only ones that can accept and approve us. Isn't it interesting? Back at school, back in elementary school or middle school, remember when that one person in school didn't like you? They didn't like you at all. Like literally, you tried everything. You wanted to try to sit next to them at the lunch, or you wanted to be their friend, or you wanted to be invited to something, and they never did. And it would keep you up at night, right? You would think about how that one person just didn't like you. What could you change? What could you do to get that person to like you? And it didn't work. But isn't it interesting how all the other people that liked you didn't really focus on that? You didn't focus on the people that liked you. You focused on the person that didn't. Okay, and so that's kind of the human condition, right? Is that we have a tendency of focusing on the people that don't see our value. Okay, and then we just try to win it so badly. And the reason we do that is because we haven't really found our own value. Okay, I've realized that when I look for acceptance and approval outside of myself, I'm thirsty because I don't get any. I've realized that once I've found it for myself, and I've worked for years and years to cultivate this and create this, is that all of a sudden when I got my acceptance and approval for myself, everybody gave me theirs. But I didn't need theirs. I already had this. I don't need 1,000,000 bottles of water. I already got it. Because it begins within ourselves. But how do we begin to create acceptance and approval within ourselves? See, that's the big question. A lot of people talk about it, but how do we find that? And I've found that the only way to find that is to basically begin to see ourselves and our value and to begin to approve of ourselves and our value outside of outside relationships or situations. Okay, so just because I win an award doesn't mean that I'm going to give myself acceptance and approval. It's actually quite the opposite. I'm going to accept myself and approve of myself in my process of being in my body and being me on a daily basis outside of any accolades or any relationship that I can possibly find. Because my value is not based on anything outside of myself. Actually, my value is not even based on anything I do. My value is based on being, B-E-I-N-G, being, just me being me. And that has value in its own. But people don't really tell you that. See, that's the interesting thing about it. They leave that part out. Why? Because they don't know it. You know, I find that acceptance and approval is a lot like closure. Okay. Have you ever been in a relationship where you go, God, I just wish I had some closure. I just want them to, to listen to me. I just want to have this conversation, and, I just want to get it out in the open. I'm going to feel so much better. I'll just be so much more calm, and everything's going to be great. But guess what? When was the last time you needed that and you couldn't get closure from that other person? Okay. They didn't want to talk to you. Maybe they blocked you. Maybe they completely cut you out, and there you were desperately wanting closure. But closure in that situation can only come from within yourself. Closure of dealing with the acceptance of the relationship, forgiving yourself for being in the situation and letting it go, right? It's interesting because when we wait for closure from other people, we starve to death, right? And so that's the same thing as acceptance and approval. And so we have to begin to see our value separately from everybody and everything. And once we're able to begin to see that, it's easy for us to avoid toxic relationships because we realize that we don't have to prove our value to other people because we already have it. Why do I have to keep proving myself to other people when I already know my value? And that actually keeps us out of these toxic friendships, toxic love, romantic type relationships, because we don't have to prove that anymore, okay? Because we are not parched. We actually have it ourselves. I want to create some more videos on how to really focus on the process of being in the mindfulness, seeing the value, not seeing all the problems that's been created in our life, not seeing all the things that we've done wrong, but actually seeing the value in what we've learned and kind of changing that perspective of our life to understand why we're here. Last but not least, I've realized that the reason why we're here, people call it purpose, right? Purpose is interesting. And people think that purpose is a career or a job or something that we're having to manifest and create. But really, purpose is learning who we are in this lifetime and finding our value intrinsic on its own, separate from anything we do. Okay, that's the purpose. So once we figure out purpose, we have acceptance and approval. Once we figure that out, then we bypass the relationships with people that were only meant to prove and to show our value. But a lot of times in that, we get into that situation, right, where we get lost, where we lose our identity, or we feel like we lost our identity. But once we have acceptance and approval, there's no way of losing our identity. And so I look forward to doing more of these videos, creating this, because I think that this is really center stage for why we make certain choices. And this is center stage for when we see our value or don't see our value. And this is definitely the most important aspect to doing what's right, what's just right and reasonable for us, and doing the right thing for us instead of falling prey to relationships that, well, they're counterproductive to not only our purpose, but they're counterproductive to our identity. I hope this video has connected with you on a soul level. And if you have some comments that you would like to make in the comment section, I'm looking forward to hearing that from you, because I think that acceptance and approval is really at the crux of most of the issues that we deal with in our life. And if you've been embarking on that journey, I'm sure that what you have to say is very valuable. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, give us a like on this video, and you can also join us for some exclusive content as well. And ultimately, as you know, what I normally say at the end of these videos, and I mean it, is don't forget to live your true life.